In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Good morning, everyone. I wonder how many of you have ever seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I have never seen it. Apparently, it's about, I did a little research into it. Apparently, it's about this simple electric lineman sighting a UFO, and then there was evidence of this sighting, and then there was actual contact of this sighting. And that's what it means to be a close encounter of the third kind. Close encounter of the first kind is the sighting. Close encounter of the second kind is the evidence of the sighting. And close encounter of the third kind is contact with this alien being or UFO, whatever it is. So, the reason I bring this up to you today is because your bulletins, give me a bulletin here. Give me that. Your Sunday bulletins, for those of you who have eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to perceive, there are 3 close encounters of the third kind. Not with extraterrestrials, but with saints and angels and the Lord himself. Let's take a look. First of all, the gospel lesson. You have St. Peter, who is a fisherman by trade, it's his profession, and Jesus, who is a carpenter and an enlightened teacher. He tells Peter, after he has spoken to the people, put out into the deep for a catch. And Peter, I don't know, if Peter really thought he was the Lord, I don't think he thought it yet, because he wouldn't have said what he said first before he obeyed. Master, called him master now. We've toiled all night, but at your word we'll do it. Fast forward a few minutes later, boats are sinking, nets are breaking, fishermen are going all over the place trying to haul in all this shoal of fish. And now Peter, look at the text. Now he calls him Lord. He is beginning to see the divinity of Jesus. He said, Lord, depart from me. I'm a sinful man. The sharp contrast of your holiness against my sinfulness is like an intolerable burn to my soul. Depart from me, Lord. That's the first encounter of the third kind in your bulletins. A second encounter of the third kind in your bulletins is this strange hymn after the resurrection hymn. It's the Apolitikion of Theotokos, Myrtidiotisis, of the myrtle tree. The Theotokos of the myrtle tree. What in the world is that? Does anybody know? No. My guess is no, you don't know. I didn't know either. So I looked it up. In the 14th century, there was this simple shepherd. Peter was a simple fisherman. This man was a simple shepherd. Not Sybil shepherd, a simple shepherd. And he heard the Theotokos speak to him. And she said, I want you to find my icon. And this man just fell to his knees at the sweetness of her words and her presence. And he just fell down with tears and joy. And when he got up, he turned around. There in the bushes of a myrtle tree was her icon. He brought it home. He was rejoicing. He was telling all his friends and his family, look, I had a visitation from the Theotokos. Look at this. Next day he wakes up, it's gone. he is heartbroken and he goes back to his work. And then there it is again, at the same bush, in this myrtle bush. And he brings it home again. And says, I found it. He loses, the next morning he wakes up, it's not there again. It happens the third day. And he finds it back at the myrtle tree. And then it dawned upon him, I have to build a church to the Theotokos around this icon. And he did. In the island of Kythera. And that church is still there. And it's been built upon, it's been enlarged. There's a monastery with it now. To this day, on September 24th, the island of Kythera celebrates this tree, the Myrtle Tree Church. So, a second encounter of the third kind in your bulletins. By the way, it mentions in the hymn, it mentions the healing of a paralytic. 2 centuries later, an ancestor of that shepherd was paralyzed. They brought him to the icon and he was healed. That's why it says in the hymn, you healed the paralytic. And this icon is responsible for a lot of healings, I'm told. A third visitation, encounter, close encounter of the third kind is right in your face. This, the cover. And it's explained on the back. Does anybody know who is on the cover? Don't look on the back. Why not? This is the priest, Old Testament priest Zechariah, the father of St. John the Baptist. He was doing his job in the altar, censing the altar, and he had a visitation from an angel, Archangel Gabriel. And he says, God has heard your prayers, and you will have a son. And you and Elizabeth will have a son, and you will call him John. And it ends up being John the Baptist. A third encounter of the third kind. So, what do you think of this? I bet if I were to go have lunch with you or something, or you came to my office and we just talked, I bet you could tell me something of a visitation that you may have had, a close encounter of the third kind. I would love to hear it. I would love to hear your stories. I asked someone yesterday, a parish council member, and he told me. And it was because of that encounter he converted to Orthodoxy. And it happened here in church. Before closing, I want to tell you one more encounter of a strange kind that happened to me just this past week. I was getting ready for my fall study Tuesday night class, the New Testament Greek class. And I was in my office. If you've never been to my office, it's the last room on the back. And it's got 2 beautiful picture windows. You look out into the greenery, and there's a forest there over our 12-acre land. And it's a beautiful little office. And I was tying up some loose ends before I went in to teach. And I just happened to look up. And there, staring at me, was this elegant deer. And she must have been a doe, because her face was sublime. There was something different. And at first I was shocked. I go, what the heck is this? I got a class to do here. But then, I don't know, she didn't flinch. And then I recovered and I didn't flinch. And we kept looking. And so she turned, she kind of looked to her left. She went like this, not taking her eyes off me. So I did the same thing. I went to my left and I looked at her. Then she went to her right, did the same thing, looked like this. I did that too. I am not embellishing. This is exactly what happened. in a majestic way, she bowed her head and looked up again. And I did it right back to her. I bowed my head and looked back. She did it again. I did it again. She did it a third time. I did it a third time. I was thinking, now what? She just sort of nodded, and I can't tell you how beautiful she was. Just different. I knew this was something different. And then she just nodded and turned and went into the forest, and 2 little fawns followed her. I didn't even know they were there. And, I went into the class, and I was telling the class, this happened. And I told them, there is actually a saint who this experience happened to. And darn it, I can't remember his name. I don't know when the feast day is, but I just wanted to let you know that this has happened. The next day, Wednesday, I woke up, and I always look at see who the saint of the day is. Who am I going to spend the day with, the particular saint? It was a Roman soldier and a hunter, and his name was Placidius. His icon is there. He was hunting deer, and he was about to kill this one deer, this one stag that came up to him and stared at him. And between his antlers was a cross. And it was as if the Lord spoke through the deer, the stag, to Placidius. This man became a Christian because of this experience, and he took the name of Stathios. I couldn't believe it. The night I was doing, and the night I saw this thing, the Orthodox world was celebrating the Vesper service for Saint Eustathios. And the next day, the feast day, the liturgy for Saint Eustathios. There's even have you ever seen this German liqueur called, what is it called? Jägermeister. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever seen this? I challenge you to go to the store, look at the Jägermeister logo, and you're going to see a deer with a cross. Apparently, a couple of centuries later, there was another hunter who experienced the same thing, and it's from that. So, very interesting. I don't know. What can I tell you? So, figure out an ending yourself to the sermon. All right. God bless.